Y'all, I'm so exhausted. And if you've been watching for any of these reviews, you know I've been exhausted. I stay exhausted for Drag Race Thailand Season 3. Hi, hello, welcome in. My name is Jer, and we are begrudgingly discussing episode 9 of Drag Race Thailand Season 3. I'm so glad it's almost over. This episode was a big can of garbage. So let's get into it. This episode is called TV Show. T like the beverage, V like the letter. I'm assuming it's a riff off of those classic coffee talk shows that they do oftentimes on Drag Race. It's always these talk show quasi-newscaster challenges that generate the most sparks out of the entire season. Going all the way back to Drag Race Season 3 when Manila did that Asian stereotype character that set the workroom on fire. It was the Season 9 talk show challenge that Charlie Hides didn't lip sync at all. The talk show challenge was the one that Ginny Lemon walked out on. The talk show in Drag Race Holland Season 2 is where it was revealed that Vivaldi had been doing wigs for Fred and got saved unnecessarily even though she was cheating. And now this challenge adds on to the pile of talk show challenges of BS that happens with Spicy getting pushed through yet again. I'm just like, I kind of figured in episode 1 that they were gonna give her a Raven storyline. I think I even mentioned it maybe back in episode 2 or 3 that with the times that she had been lip syncing, it was entirely possible that she was gonna get a Raven trajectory, lip sync early in the competition, then kind of soar to the end. But spoiler alert, she didn't actually soar. Even in Snatch Game, after now seeing Patu, I don't know if her impersonation was that good. I left this challenge actually thinking, oh, that Snatch Game wasn't as funny as the judges thought it was. Beyond the point. The editing is mostly centered this episode around Frankie and Godland, which makes sense because they were the first two to be called safe to move on to the finals. And honestly, I think at this point it's between the two of them. They do another quick drag challenge for the mini, and at this point in the game, it's just disrespectful. There's no reason or point to have them be doing quick drag. There's just no reason. And why did they make them twerk on lemons that had paint? Was it just to ruin their drag? Was it just to continue to be disrespectful? And that was the theme of this entire episode, was disrespectful. Drag queens already go through enough BS in the media and in the universe as it is. They've not been shy about talking about how even being a drag queen in Thailand makes it very difficult for men to even be interested in dating them because they see them as something sort of taboo. And I imagine that drag is still pretty taboo in Thailand, where the cultural nuance is obviously very different than here in the States, where maybe it is looked at as taboo, but you're sort of seen as like, yes, fierce. So to continue to embarrass them again and again and again just feels rotten at this point. It doesn't feel good to watch. Spicy is in lace again for the challenge, groundbreaking, and Frankie ends up winning the mini challenge, allowing herself to assign the roles for today's Maxi challenge, which as discussed is another talk show type challenge, but this one is set in the nighttime. Oh, I also forgot about the season 6 one where they were doing the RuPaul show and Jocelyn talked to that one old lady about her abortion. The talk show challenges are so bad. Why do we keep doing them? They've never ended up with anything good at the end of them except for bad stuff. So this challenge is a little bit interesting because they all have to interview Patu in the kind of similar vein as the season 6 one, but they have different categories that they have to follow off of. Frankie gives Godland your childhood, so Godland has to construct a show talking about Patu's childhood. Frankie gives herself the present, gives ZP your future, and gives Spicy your idol. I feel like idol is the one that makes the least sense to me. I don't really know what they could have done with this challenge. Like, this is the role that seems the duddiest of all of them. I don't even know what else you could have done with past, present, future. What other category do you toss in there? That's a trio topic set. So then tossing in your idol feels like a rough draft of another set of trios. Like, this challenge would have made more sense in the top 6. So then they could have had 2 trios where it was past, present, future, your idol, your dream, your passions, something along that line. And then that wretched challenge that they did in the top 6 could have been maybe where the ball was, and the ball could have happened here because we would have had so many less looks and we would not have seen the exhaustion that clearly Pangina felt. And it would have also made sense because art was here at this time, so judging the ball would have made sense. A lot of these challenges could have been shifted around, and I think it would have had just a little more synergy, but it still doesn't save how bad this season's been. I did think that ZP was really funny, holding up that mirror and spying on the conversation that Pangina was having with Spicy. And Pangina sort of hints that Spicy should dress up like Patu, which felt like sabotage to me. And I don't know what that was all about, but that just seemed like a horrible idea. Like, I would only want to put an impersonator in front of a celebrity if they were really well known for doing that. So let's discuss these challenges briefly. Godlin seemed quite a natural in her skit. I agree with Frankie though that breaking the fourth wall and addressing the 3 topics they were going to talk about was not very smooth. It sort of reminded me of like a J variety show where they'd have some announcer being like, the first topic is blah 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 blah, and then it would cut to them doing whatever they were doing, and then it would cut to the next cue card saying, the next topic is a fun game, and then it would cut to them, right? And so I almost wonder if she thought that there would be some type of asset added in post that just never happened. Frankie was meant to be a nosy aunt, and I thought she carried the conversation really well. Frankie was a natural. I loved watching how conversational she was. She commanded the room with presence, allowed it to breathe, allowed Patu to talk, and she seemed like she got him to actually open up and share about himself and his interests and his desires without making it seem like I'm trying to tug stuff out of you. Because sometimes when you watch these interview style shows, the person doesn't have any charisma at all. So while they're talking to them, they're dragging stuff out. And we saw that very clearly and presently with ZP and Spicy. What I also appreciated about Frankie was that she knew her words. Godlin kept looking down at her cards to kind of keep herself on track, and there's nothing wrong with that in a situation like this where you have this much time to prepare and this much time to do it. It's hard to remember everything you want to do and say. I mean, hell, I keep notes for my own reference while I'm filming these videos, and if I had to do this in one take with no jump cuts or anything, there would be moments where I'd be looking over and looking at my notes and trying to remember where I was supposed to go. That's pretty natural. But for Frankie to actually know her words front and back and only need the cue cards a few times just to keep herself on place, I think that speaks to how much of a star she is, and at this point, Frankie's gotta win. ZP seemed really stiff and uncomfortable in her set. She talked so much, but never let the room breathe. And she seemed to rush through it all, which we saw she actually ended early, which was incredibly uncomfortable and awkward to watch. And it even showed them standing around while Patu was being told, no, go back up on the stage, ZP, you still have time, go back up. She was done, she wrapped. I think it would have been fine if they had just said, oh, you ended early. Are you sure you want to be done right now? And then let her do her thing, rather than show us this whole cut of Patu being like, well, if she wants to be done, she can be done. He was really seeming to advocate for her where production was not. And he seems like a pretty well-known famous figure in Thailand. So he's probably navigated the entertainment sphere enough to know when stunts are happening. And so he probably saw this and was like, why are we doing this? And I appreciated that from him. And finally, we have Spicy, who was the most uncomfortable to watch. The intro was odd with her applying the lipstick. I didn't understand why she didn't start that while the lights were down and then start smacking the lips and then introducing the sponsor. The most egregious part was the editing though, because they cut all of the background music and you could hear the AC going in the background, just a very low while she was talking, and that made it even more uncomfortable because the editors broke fourth wall for us to feel even more discomfort. And there's a lot you can do with editing to make a moment seem less awkward than what it was, and they cranked the volume to 10. That was disrespectful as well. Even if I think this girl should have gone home many times, I don't want her to be embarrassed on TV. And Spicy also asked Patu to introduce himself, which again, he seems like a well-known figure. And you wouldn't ask Cher to do that. She looked really nervous the entire time, was messy to watch. It had no flow, it didn't stay on topic, and she also ended early, which I can't tell was a purposeful flop to try and take some pressure off of ZP for flopping, or if it was she actually did just rush through the whole thing. The end, applying the makeup again, was very Jessica Wilde saying, I love that drink, but far less iconic. So then our runway category is hair, which seemed to also be an onomatopoeia for screaming out of fright, or a sound that you make when you're a scary monster. Spicy Sunshine is in fishnets. Again, Jesus Christ. Did the only thing this girl packed was fishnets and lace? I understand having a brand and an aesthetic, but you can't just have one fabric the entire run. The bald cap was messy and kind of badly applied, and I didn't really like the application of the hair either. I appreciated what the demon was. It was just badly executed. And a lot of her storyline this episode was the other girls saying there's no way she can make it to the finale. ZP did this Audrey 2 Venus flytrap moment, which was super fun. I actually loved this a lot. The red makeup was incredibly impressive, but I hated that yellow corset. The biggest positive was that the mouth opened on that Venus flytrap, and that was cool as hell, man. Godlin looked striking and scary. I love that this was almost like a goddess. The contacts were a really nice touch to this look as well. And then Frankie did this terrifying, bloody-mouthed, hair-covered monster. And I'm a sucker for blood on the runway, especially on Drag Race. I love that the head in her hand looked just like her face. It was scary, it was jarring, it was perfectly on theme. This bitch is the winner, and if she doesn't win, at this point, I'm already so disappointed I wouldn't be surprised, but there's no excuse for her not to win at this point. Frankie rightfully wins this challenge, which should be the second one in a row. Godland is called safe and allowed to go to the finale, and then it's left to Spicy and ZP to lip sync. This made sense in my head. The lip sync song is a power ballad, and I never love that for the lip sync that determines you going to the finale. I don't think it shows off a person's talent very well. ZP was commanding and powerful during the lip sync. She had so much presence and energy and took up space. I love the way that she glided across the runway and just captivated the room. Where Spicy was contrived and stiff and doing a lot of awkward movements like she's done in every other lip sync so far. Questionably, Spicy is called safe and allowed to go to the finale. Now, tinfoil hat moment, I don't know if this was always planned to be a top 4, but it would have been a little more triumphant if it had been ZP called safe and then Spicy allowed to move on. It would have been sort of Mama Queen and Abby OMG getting pushed to the finale, even though they both probably should have been axed. And it at least would have been less frustrating as a viewer. I don't think the judges had any idea that this was gonna happen. They were all crying, sobbing, even Art was having boohoo weepies. They looked like they were devastated that ZP was not going to the finale. And as she was talking and explaining herself and sharing her journey and what she had learned and why she was glad to be there, she's crying and breaking down. And this was really cruel and inhumane in my opinion. Because if it was always set up to be a top 4, they did not have to make her do this whole speech and not only traumatize her, but also the judges at the same time. It was bull. It wasn't triumphantly emotional at all. It was just cruel and unkind, disrespectful and mean. To make her go through all of that only to say, just kidding, you also get to go to the finale too, because you broke your own heart and showed us how brokenhearted we were about you having to leave. Like, for Christ's sake, they should have just called her safe and then let Spicy try to fight for herself, and if they really felt like she deserved it, then push her to the end, or just eliminate her, rather than go through all this. If it was never planned to be a top 4, then this was especially cruel and inhumane to even suggest that Spicy with 4 bottoms should be going to the finale over ZP, who's got multiple wins and has shown numerous times through the season that she is very good at this show, despite all of the adjustments and changes that they've had to make. It was infuriating to watch. And for me, I'm feeling like Spicy's gotta have blackmail on somebody at the World of Wonder offices. She must have seen someone drive over someone with their car, or saw an assassination happen, called up on an anonymous payphone and said, "Hi, if you don't push me to the end, I'm gonna release this to the press and your career's over." Because I don't see a valid reason why she is in the finale. Referencing Mama Queen and Abby OMG, Abby did not deserve to be in the finale of Holland 1. However, in that final challenge, she did quite good. Mama Queen was the one who was bad. And Abby, despite all of her bottom placements, always was fighting her hardest for it, where Spicy has sort of had this energy about her all season that it's like, if I go, I'm killing other people's dreams. I want it, but I feel bad that I'm hurting everyone along the way. Quite possibly the most odd confessional cut to me was ZP saying, "I've always thought since the beginning if I went home that she should have the crown." What? The spirit of delusion overcame ZP in that moment and washed over her entire body and drowned her. Because in what universe would 3-winner Frankie Wanga lose to 4-time bottom Spicy Sunshine with 1 win in the Snatch Game that should have gone to Frankie? I mean, stranger things have happened in the Drag Race sphere. There have been girls who won not a single challenge and won the entire season. There have been girls who bottomed multiple times who won the entire season. It is entirely possible that this garbage season is going to crown Spicy Sunshine because they seem to love her. I can't wait for next week because I'm ready to wash my hands of this season, and I think this might be the demise of the season. I think, truly, honestly, Thailand is not going to get renewed. Hardly anybody's talking about it, and the ones who are don't seem to like it. If there's someone out there who's legitimately loving every moment of this season, thinks that the challenges have been good and the execution's been good, that the way that the queens have been treated and edited has been good, please let me know who you are, because I really want to get into the logistics of why you think it's been good. Because for me, everything's been bad, and I mentioned last week, one of the most glaring problems of this season is that we don't know anything about these queens. The only times they're ever shown in confessionals talking about anything is to make snide comments about each other. And that's not their personality. There's no way that they're just shady, snide people. There's just no way. And I would argue that we knew more about Siam and Benze than we knew about any of these top 4 queens. Like in the beginning of the episode when they were impersonating all the girls who had left, that moment where ZP was impersonating Benze, I thought, that's her. That was legitimately her right there. You had the mannerisms and the hand movements and even the voice right. Even the moment where they impersonated Siam. This season is so bad. It's so bad. And I would not be surprised if it got canceled. I will see y'all tomorrow for Canada's Drag Race, which I am exponentially more excited for. Take care of yourself. See you next week for the finale. See you on the flip.